Welcome, new students. I am David, the president of Crystalport Institute. His voice was measured, carrying the weight of institutional authority. This year's class of 52 comprises 1,424 freshmen, a number bolstered by 11 specially recruited talents, marking our largest intake in a decade. He paused, letting the magnitude of the figure settle over the assembly. Crystalport Academy stands among China's premier institutions, often cited as one of the 4 famous universities. With unwavering national support, our resources, cultivation environment, and mentorship strength are truly unmatched by any ordinary academy. David, the principal, continued his detailed address. His words were slow, deliberate, yet each syllable struck a resonant chord deep within the chests of the gathered freshmen. As many students held on to visions of bright futures, David's expression hardened, shifting abruptly as if flipping a switch. The tone changed from proud boast to cold warning. However, merely gaining admission to Crystalport Institute does not grant you immunity or guarantee a golden future. He let the statement hang in the air, heavy and absolute. In an elite university, for those with special abilities, resources are never distributed equally. They flow only to the strongest. His gaze swept over the crowd, sharp and uncompromising. What this society, what this era demands, are not mediocrities, but powerful individuals capable of safeguarding our region's future. He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping in intensity, yet gaining a dangerous edge. Therefore, lo freshmen, any tactic of feigned weakness will fail here. You may possess the spirit of a tiger, but if you choose to disguise yourself as a pig, that facade will be stripped away. The upcoming freshman competition is likely already familiar to you. It is your first true opportunity to prove yourselves. David's demeanor was utterly serious, his voice ringing with undeniable power. He paused for dramatic effect, then delivered the bombshell. But this freshman competition will be different from all previous iterations. All freshmen will descend into the school's shadowmire to compete within a subterranean world. The announcement hit certain students like physical blows. Those who had only managed to awaken modest powers by sheer luck, those who had spent their summer in careless reverie, exchanged panicked glances. Whispers erupted immediately. Shadowmire, does that mean ferocious beasts? I've never seen a real beast. What are we going to do? Their murmurs were frantic and palpable, betraying their unpreparedness. It was clear they hadn't even bothered to check the campus forum. They lacked the patience for such formalities. In fact, many senior students had already speculated that the competition would take place in the deep underground. Yet, the vast majority of freshmen maintained a facade of calm, treating the panicked whispers as merely the babbling of a small minority. Despite their attempts to remain quiet, their hushed anxieties were unnervingly clear in the sudden hush that fell over the plaza. Silence. David spoke only 2 words, yet they carried an immense weight. He exuded a palpable aura of command, and his momentum allowed him to strike with surgical precision. The students who had been whispering recoiled as if struck by an invisible force, stumbling back into silence. The surrounding freshmen exchanged glances, a mixture of shock and suppressed amusement flickering in their eyes. The specific rules for the underground competition will be detailed later by dedicated instructors. He continued, dismissing the immediate panic. For now, I will focus on the rewards. He let the gravity of his next words build. Within this subterranean world dwell all manner of ferocious beasts. Their crystals and certain internal organs are highly valuable resources you can collect during the competition. Therefore, he paused, letting the anticipation swell. The winner of this freshman competition will receive a 400% bonus when calculating the final value of their collected loot. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Second and third place winners receive a 200% bonus. Third to 10th place receive a 150% bonus. Rankings from 11th to 50th will receive a 100% bonus. Ranks 51 to 200 earn a 50% bonus. And those ranked 201 through 700 receive a 20% bonus. Though his tone remained measured, the details instantly ignited the previously subdued atmosphere. This is it, thought the protagonist. This is not just an extra bonus, this is a massive windfall. The majority of freshmen were visibly electrified. This was nothing short of a disguised treasure hunt. A 400% bonus for first place. It meant 5 times their initial investment. If one entered with enough Blue Star coins to spend $1 million, they could walk out with $5 million. The potential reward was staggering. While no one dream of the pinnacle, securing a spot within the top 700, roughly half the student body, was an achievable goal, and even that offered a respectable 20% boost. David raised a hand, cutting through the rising tide of excitement. His gesture instantly drew every pair of eyes back to him, filled with renewed anticipation. The winner will receive the opportunity to customize a suitable weapon and S-level resources. Further are numerous other rewards, such as 10 times the monthly cultivation resources, though I won't delve into those specifics now. He listing the tiered prizes. Second place receives S-level resources and 100 credits. Third place attains S-level resources and A-level resources. The revelation of weapon customization caused a fresh wave of uproar. The ability to tailor a weapon was invaluable. Current market weapons were mass-produced, inherently incompatible with the user's unique abilities. Customization required both capital and specialized combat expertise. These rewards will extend down through the top 700 participants, he clarified. Even those ranked at the lower end of the top 700 will receive C-level resources, 10 credits, and a monthly reward equivalent to 1.1 times their standard cultivation allotment. The promise was intoxicating. Even if they couldn't reach the summit, simply making the cut meant a significant boost to their future stability. Ethan, among the new students, felt a surge of quiet elation. With his own abilities and experience in Shadowmire environments, reaching the top 50 seemed highly probable. Even if he missed the top 10, the rewards were already immensely generous. A 400% boost. Ethan's resolve hardened into fierce determination. He knew this wasn't just about making his mentor proud, it was about securing the foundation of his own future. Finally, David concluded, his voice dropping back to an intimate, yet commanding register. One last thing during the competition. I and all the school's mentors will be observing every move. Your performance in the Shadowmire will directly influence our selection process. To become a mentor student, to receive personal guidance from one of us, is infinitely more valuable than simply attending large lecture halls. The vice principal stepped forward, offering a few concluding remarks before the opening ceremony dissolved as quickly as it began. With that final pronouncement, the grand spectacle was over. A wave of relief swept through the assembled students. They dispersed instantly, scattering like startled birds to find familiar faces, murmuring greetings, and melting into the crowd. Crystoport Academy, however, managed this exit with a grace unmatched by most institutions. In countless ordinary colleges, the opening ceremony speeches were legendary for their glacial-length monotonous recitations delivered by layers of administrators, often surrounded by an entourage that rendered even checking one's phone an act of rebellion. The students endured it all with palpable misery. Good morrow, Ethan. In the freshman competition, Amelia smiled, standing not far from him. You too, Ethan replied simply. Soon after, Amelia gravitated toward Emily, while he found himself cornered by Ethan and Ethan. Brother, you're doing well, Ethan teased, a grin stretching across his face. It's only the first day, and you've already charmed the beauty from the dorm across the street. He leaned in conspiratorially. You should start a class sometime. I'd sign me up, and I'll bring you a whole cohort of new students. Ethan rolled his eyes, feigning offense. What? We're just ordinary friends. How could it be as outrageous as you suggest? Ethan stared wide-eyed, then leaned closer, scrutinizing Ethan's face with intense focus. He found nothing to critique, no flaw, no hint of pretense. Okay, brother Ethan, Michael apologized immediately, sensing the shift in mood. Fine. Ethan waved a dismissive hand. He wasn't one for dwelling on trivialities or petty squabbles. They eventually returned to their dormitory. Since the school uniform event was not scheduled, they opted to change into their usual training gear before heading down to the Frost Art Ability Hall for today's session. The day passed in a blur of rigorous drills. The second day of the freshman competition had finally arrived. Every new student stood ready, clad in specialized battle suits that ranged across a spectrum of colors: crimson, sapphire, ivory, and obsidian, though white and black were the most common. Weapons too displayed incredible variety. Most were cold steel spears, broadswords, longswords but rare. Formidable implements like halberds, axes, and hammers also appeared. A palpable fervor burned in the freshman's eyes, a raw energy akin to a slumbering lion finally awakened. Ethan's class was the first-year ice-type cohort. Following the counselor's instructions, they were required to line up by college, the Glacier Crest Academy, where Ethan belonged before entering the underground testing grounds together. But wait, Ethan murmured to himself, glancing around the group. There aren't many people in this ice academy. At Crystalport Academy, a class of 30 was considered small. The entire ice academy only housed one cohort, and it wasn't even full, only 29 students. This was true even with Arthur presiding over such a large group. It was clear that the awakening of ice abilities was rare, and after the martial arts exam, had sorted them into specialized streams. The number seemed pitifully meager. Yet, in a dramatic twist of fate, 2 freshmen this year had awakened S-level ice abilities. As Ethan surveyed his classmates, he couldn't help but notice the hostile glares directed at him by Ryan, an international student standing nearby. He also caught the flash of challenge in other eyes. Ethan paid them no mind. His greatest rivals weren't Ryan or any single individual. They were the hidden talents scattered among the rest. Amelia, the baby deep-sea dragon companion beast, that specially recruited freshman who had manifested an S-level fire ability. But Ethan dismissed them all as mere distractions. They weren't enough. First place would belong to him. There was a saying, be contemptuous strategically, but take it seriously tactically. Even with his confidence soaring, he refused to let his guard drop for a second. Once all the formations had assembled and stood at attention on the central parade ground, the mentor in charge of the freshman competition stepped forward. "Welcome, students," he began, his voice ringing out. "I am your instructor for this year's freshman competition. I will now read out the rules and precautions." All new students snapped their focus to him. This competition will take place within the Shadow Mire and will last for 7 days. He porting the weight of those words settle. "We have prepared ample supplies, medisude, folding tents, and tactical backpacks for all of you to store here." He continued, his tone shifting slightly to one of controlled excitement. "As you know, the beasts in this underground world are bloodthirsty. But do not worry. During the closure period, these creatures underwent special treatment. After you defeat them, they will no longer be tainted by that rage. You may kill to your heart's content. Fight as if there is no tomorrow. For every ferocious beast you eliminate, you will earn points based on its strength. This will form the basis of your ranking." The mentor then gestured toward a piece of equipment. "We are also distributing special record watches to everyone. These devices allow you to view maps, track points, and monitor leaderboards." He lowered his voice slightly, making it sound more confidential. "Most importantly, these watches are imbued with the elemental energy of the mentors. In times of crisis, they can generate an elemental shield, saving your life. Furthermore, senior students will patrol nearby, ready to evacuate you immediately after the shield is triggered." The map is divided into 2 zones, the shallow area and the deep area. He pointed out a difference in color on an unseen display. The shallow areas are marked white, the deeper regions are red. Beasts in the shallow zone range from low-level to middle-tier first-rate creatures. As you delve deeper, you enter the deep area, home to Tier 1 high-level beasts, Tier 2 monstrosities, and even some rare Tier 3 low-level threats. Those confident in their strength may attempt them. He paused to dramatic effect. But remember, victory isn't limited to killing monsters. Defeating other freshmen and triggering the protection mode on their record watches will grant you a direct bonus of 25% of their current score. A critical rule, however, defeating other students is only permitted from the 4th day onwards. Any attempt to do so within the first 3 days will be deemed a violation and result in immediate disqualification. The mentor cleared his throat, sounding suddenly strained. On the 7th day, the final day of the competition, the locations of all surviving freshmen will be broadcast directly onto your map. Having delivered such a detailed briefing, the mentor was visibly hoarse. He quickly retrieved a bottle of mineral water and downed it in one gulp. According to the rules of the freshman competition, the most effective strategy is clear, secure points by hunting down ferocious beasts in the initial days. Then, on the final day, once every participant's location is revealed on the map, we can harvest the remaining creatures for a massive point boost. As for that low-level third-tier beast, Ethan muttered, his grip tightening on his fists until his knuckles were white. After I consume enough blood-boosting and extreme ice pills, I might not even be a match for it. His thoughts raced like sparks in the dark. Just as he was lost in this internal calculation, the mentor overseeing the freshman competition, who had been quenching his own thirst, smiled faintly and continued. One final reminder: team formation is permitted in this freshman competition. Naturally, there are advantages and disadvantages to forming a unit, so you must weigh them carefully. A wave of cheers erupted among the assembled freshmen. The underground world was an arena fraught with peril. Even hunting a single beast alone offered no guarantee of survival, and elimination loomed at every turn. Teamwork promised not only mutual support but also a compounded final score. Yet, for the top students including Ethan, the announcement seemed to register little change. Their individual strength was undeniable. They could hunt beasts on their own accord. Teaming up wouldn't significantly boost hunting efficiency, and sharing spoils inevitably diluted the reward. The other points and loot of solo play remained unmatched. Some senior students, who had come merely to audit the class, found the rules of the freshman competition utterly fascinating. They gathered their peers, calling them together to watch the spectacle unfold. Meanwhile, many teams were already mobilizing, sending captains and vice-captains out into the fray to observe matches and scout for fresh talent. The entire competition was being recorded by specialized energy cameras and projected onto a colossal screen, a custom-built display designed to ensure that the real-time performance of the top 100 students was visible to all. Led by their instructors, the classes arrived in perfect unison before the subterranean passage beneath Aethergard Academy. Wow! Is this the underground world passage? It truly feels like a black hole. Once you pass through, you'll see a whole new world. Some of the newest students gasped, their faces alight with sheer wonder. The line advanced slowly, one by one. Within the underground domain of Aethergard Academy, an entire small city had been constructed, a fortified barrier designed to guard the passage and prevent any ferocious beasts from spilling into the real world. Ethan knew this place was called Aethelberg Citadel because a massive stone tablet stood nearby, bearing 3 deeply engraved characters: Aethelberg Citadel. He scanned his surroundings briefly. Vendors selling temporary travel gear dotted the area, but they were all vetted by the school. Cheating was impossible here. Along the city wall, over 10 third-tier ability users maintained watch, ready for any emergency. Of course, there was one major difference between this place and Viridian Crossing or Ironwood Borough, the moon-gazing tower. Dear counselors, please distribute tactical backpacks and recording watches to your respective classes. Once distribution is complete, those students wearing spatial rings on their fingers, please come forward for inspection. If you are found secretly hiding any items within your spatial ring and attempting to use them in the upcoming freshman competition, you will be immediately disqualified. Ethan's at the front of his group, receiving a tactical backpack and a recording watch from the counselor. The moment he unzipped the pack, it was filled with various potions, Tier 1 energy draughts, Tier 1 disinfectant supplies. Ethan counted only 7 bottles of energy potions. 7 bottles more than any other freshman could possibly consume. Still, he needed to be meticulous about controlling his elemental energy expenditure. Otherwise, these precious potions would run out too quickly. After securing the pack and fastening the watch to his left wrist, Ethan jogged over for his spatial ring inspection. As Ethan approached, a realization struck him: there were quite a few freshmen with spatial rings at Aethergard Academy. It was easily over 10% of the student body. He found it logical. Even in the early stages of cultivation, having funds from home provided an immense advantage, allowing them to perform better on the martial arts exams than students from ordinary families. After inspecting all the newly created rings and temporarily storing any non-compliant items, the mentor announced with booming authority: 3, 2, 1. I hereby the 2052 freshman competition officially open. Go. Standing behind him, clapped him on the shoulder and spoke urgently. Ethan, you can do it too, then returned a calm smile. Charge! Watch me break into the top 700. You have no ambition at all. I'll just aim for the top 100, okay? As the gates of Aethelberg Citadel swung wide open, a torrent of freshmen shouted and rushed out, desperate not to fall behind. Ethan remained unhurried, his movements measured. Losing one or two low-level first-tier beasts in this shallow area wouldn't significantly impact his overall performance. What? My head is so dizzy. No, I have to hold on. I must hold on. The moment Ethan stepped out of the city gates, he saw many new students stumbling, some leaning heavily against the walls, their faces sickly pale. They were told that the bloodthirsty aura of the beasts had temporarily vanished, but no one mentioned that the oxygen levels in the air were anything but abnormal. The performance of these newcomers mirrored Ethan's own initial experience when he first entered the underground world with his team. Ethan's days did not linger on them. He immediately activated his recording watch. Click. The record was live. First, he accessed the map view. After studying it, Ethan understood that the underground world beneath Aethelgard Academy was circular in nature, and Aethelberg Citadel sat precisely at its center. A white circle radiated outward from the core, marking the shallow layer. The remaining area glowed red, indicating the deeper zones. Ethan chose a random path and moved out first. Once clear of the city's immediate influence, he mobilized a small amount of his mental energy and activated his newly learned S-rank skill, Detective Technique. In an instant, Ethan's senses expanded, mapping every ferocious beast within a 1.5-kilometer radius. Mantis shrimp. Mantis shrimp. Why is it always mantis shrimp? He knew this creature, much like the shadow cat, was among the weakest beasts. It possessed the body of a mantis and the tail and claws of a shrimp, barely reaching the size of a real-world rat. The mantis shrimp were everywhere, nestled in shadowed crevices, clinging to dense undergrowth, even scuttling across the bark of ancient tree trunks. It was a chaotic tapestry of chitin and color, like finding a swarm of electric Pikachu scattered along the roadside. Beyond these vibrant crustaceans lurked other formidable creatures. Natural fell into the category of first-tier low-level beasts. Anything approaching mid-tier or higher felt impossibly distant. Ethan paused, letting his senses settle on the general layout of the underground world, before withdrawing his mental energy. He estimated that even maintaining this minimal psychic hum would drain him completely within half an hour at most. This subterranean realm was subtly different from the environments of Viridian Crossing or Ironwood Burrow. The vegetation here lacked the lush, suffocating density he had grown accustomed to. A soft rustling sound cut through the humid air. Oh no, do? It's a beast. Arthur had only stepped away for moments. Suddenly, two mantis shrimp erupted from the surrounding grasses, appearing directly in front of a trio of freshman students who were barely out of their initial shock. To Ethan, they were nothing more than minor inconveniences. Aha, ferocious beast, what do we dimly? You go first, you, stay back, take this, but for the three new recruits. These two ordinary mantis shrimp were enough to send tremors through their bodies, causing them to stammer and falter. Ethan watched them, a faint shake of his head passing over him. It was a familiar pattern. Many who up an environment of privilege would indeed freeze when confronted with genuine danger, a reaction mirrored by their parents. Influenced by such primal fear, even if they possessed the strength to dispatch the creatures, they might never be able to unlock their full potential. If you won't claim these points, he murmured, a hint of impatience in his tone, then I will gladly accept them myself. His ice blue spatial ring flashed into view as he drew out the black dragon spear. He initiated an ice flash teleportation, reappearing instantly before the pair. Two swift, clean thrusts followed. In the next instant, the two mantis shrimps were reduced to nothing but shimmering ash. The system notifications chimed softly in his ear. He had defeated a Tier 1 low-rank ferocious beast, the mantis shrimp, and gained 10 evolution points twice. Ethan barely registered the small accumulation of points. He immediately activated his watch to check his current tally. His score was 20 points, and 10 for each mantis shrimp, the same amount his system awarded him. He quickly switched to the leaderboard view, noting his rank as 155th. 155th. It seems the other freshmen are quite quick on their feet. Ethan offered a detached observation, paying it little mind. There was no need for haste. This was only the first day. The true challenge, he knew, lay ahead. The 3 freshman students, having witnessed his effortless speed and striking appearance, found their gazes fixated upon him. A blush of admiration crept into their eyes. They silently vowed that once the competition concluded, they would seek out this handsome stranger at the campus wall. Time by way, second by agonizing second. The blazing sun overhead relentlessly baked the earth. Fortunately, his awakened superpower was ice-based, allowing him to maintain a stable skin temperature and ward off the oppressive discomfort of the heat. Ethan reactivated the recording watch. His score had risen to 120 points, and his rank stood at 120. 5 hours had passed, and his progress showed he was still far from the top 100. While his detective skills allowed him to track nearby beasts, he concluded that chasing minor gains was not worth sacrificing the broader strategy. How many points did a low-tier first-level beast yield? It wasn't enough to justify diverting his path. He needed to hurry deeper, hunting for higher-grade creatures. Meanwhile, Clara spurred her companion beast Xiaolan forward in a blur of motion. In combat mode, Xiaolan stretched out to 2.5 meters, barely meeting the standard requirement for manned flight. Riding on Ethel Blue's back, her speed was exponentially greater than walking. Utilizing her newly mastered detective skills, she could now sense the faint outlines of first-tier mid-level beasts even in this shallow area. As a companion beast capable of growing up to the 7th tier, the deepwater dragon cub possessed an innate degree of perception. It also retained the ability to launch water balloons for ranged attacks. Even while simply traversing the grounds, she managed to accumulate a considerable haul of points. Yet, despite her best efforts, she only secured 2nd place. The sheer, almost unnatural efficiency of Ethan's existence made even her ultimate goal, the number 1 spot, feel out of reach. So, she blinked, a sharp curiosity replacing her focus. Who would seize the top position now? At that moment, a young man with neatly cropped hair activated his recording watch. If one looked closely, they would notice that his right pupil was not the typical black found in people from Daxia, but rather a striking light green. His score was 300 points, and he held rank number 1. He had awakened the S-class wind ability Eye of Storms, and his light green right pupil was a direct manifestation of this power. The formidable wind magic naturally allowed him to accelerate both himself and the Gale Eagle beneath him, a creature currently at the upper levels of the 1st tier. Combined, their maximum speed could reach an astonishing 160 meters per second. After 5 hours of relentless flight, Daniel had encountered numerous mid-tier first-order beasts. Furthermore, he noticed a discrepancy in the point values. The points recorded on his watch for killing a mid-tier Tier 1 beast differed significantly from the evolution points gained by Ethan's system. Typically would gain between 20 and 30 points, however Daniel had accrued 50, the equivalent of slaying 5 low-level beasts. He paused, considering this detail. It was clearly a calculated measure by the school authorities to ensure that only the strongest candidates could compete, preventing them from simply camping out and hunting weaker prey. I'm actually number 1. A flicker of surprise crossed his face upon seeing the rankings. But less than half a minute later, he regained his composure. My speed advantage cannot last indefinitely. I need to venture deeper. Riding the Gale Eagle, Daniel remained utterly calm as he plunged once more into the deepest recesses of the underground world. The initial days passed in a blur of travel and acclimation. Day 2 offered little respite from movement, save for a noticeable split among the new recruits. Half chose to remain within the shallow zone, a relatively safe area populated only by low-level, first-tier beasts. The other half, naturally ambitious, pressed forward, confronting mid-level, first-tier ferocious beasts head-on. Nearby, however, a crowd of older students had gathered to watch the spectacle unfold. Even without intense combat, the display frames offered tantalizing glimpses into the new recruits' appearances. It was a natural human instinct for boys to admire beautiful women, and for girls to be captivated by handsome men. Wow, she has incredible looks and an amazing figure. Too bad she isn't my girlfriend. What are you even thinking? Do you know who she is? I don't know. Could she have some powerful background? You're right, She belongs to the Clara family. I suggest you abandon those dreams. The Clara family. You mean the one from Emberwood region, the clan boasting 3 7th-level grandmasters, and whose patriarch stands at the upper echelons of the 7th level. At this moment, Clara, who had been gazing intently at a second display case, spoke to a friend lost in thought. Time is a relentless current. In the blink of an eye, it was the third day of the freshman competition. Hundreds of instructors from Athelgard Academy were seated before the massive screen, their gaze fixed upon the performance data scrolling across it. A total of 100 display frames illuminated the board, with the top 10 reserved for magnified, spotlighted attention. Dean Tanda heard your ICE Academy has 2 freshmen who have awakened S-level ICE abilities this year. Congratulations, James. Dean of the Fire Element Academy sat beside Thomas and spoke up, his fists subtly clenching. Wes, that is true this year. Thomas replied with a simple nod. Ice-type abilities are quite rare indeed. I wonder if either of these 2 freshmen who awakened S-level ice skills are disciples you've taken a particular liking to. James smiled faintly, his concern appearing genuine. Dean James, you needn't worry about me taking on any new disciples, Thomas said, taking a measured sip from the tea on the table and waving a dismissive hand. Internally, however, he snorted with amusement. I know exactly what you're thinking, old devil. It's simply because none of the top 10 players have utilized ice-type skills. Thomas reasoned, having already seen through James's veiled intentions. His gaze to the display box for 9th place. It belonged to a young man with dyed red hair. He roared and flames erupted from his broadsword. With the first downward slash, the scorching sound of fire filled the air. A mid-level first-tier shadow cat was instantly cleaved in 2, leaving behind thick black smoke. The data flashed in the upper right corner. His name was Alex. His student identification number was 205202001, and he had accumulated 2,940 points, ranking 9th out of 1424 competitors. Clearly there's the specially recruited freshman who had awakened an S-level fire ability. Next, Thomas's attention moved to the display box at number 87. The owner was none other than his own disciple Ethan. His name was Ethan. His student identification number was 20520070001, and he'd accumulated 1,820 points, ranking 87th out of 1424 competitors. Ethan casual unleashed an ice blade that instantly severed the neck of a black deer in the distance. A slight, satisfied smile touched Thomas's lips. It was simply that those at the top of the leaderboard had companion beasts, granting them a minor point advantage. This was nothing. The true freshman tournament would begin on day 4, when they could fight each other. You mocked me for 4 whole years. It's finally time for my revenge. I hope you're still laughing then, old devil James. Thomas chuckled inwardly. Several hours later, Ethan was incredibly fortunate to encounter a herd of black deer. You're lucky, he muttered, acting with decisive speed. One ice blade or another shot out in rapid succession. After using the ice blade to remotely dispatch a mid-tier, first-level black-spotted deer, a notification chimed in his ear. He defeated a Tier 1 mid-tier ferocious beast, the black-spotted deer, gaining 22 evolution points. He had defeated a Tier 1 mid-tier ferocious beast, the black-spotted deer, gaining 22 evolution points. The points displayed on his watch increased accordingly. His accumulated points were 3,150. And he ranked 23rd out of 1424 competitors. Just moments ago, Ethan had been ranked 61st, not even in the top 50. Now he stood at 23rd. But that wasn't what occupied his mind. Ethan summoned the control panel. His name was Ethan, he possessed 2,050 evolution points, and his special ability was Ice Crown S. His current run was upper first tier. Ethan paused, surprised to find he could directly add points to his cultivation level. It was currently 4 p.m. in the underground world. He only needed a little over an hour to break through, so darkness was still far off. The energy fluctuations unleashed by his breakthrough were so potent that even the lower and middle first-tier beasts nearby dared not approach. Furthermore, on day 3 of the freshman competition, they were forbidden from attacking themselves or their own cohort, a rule that allowed him to break through in place. His evolution points decreased by 2,000. His realm advanced from upper first tier to lower second tier. With this knowledge, Ethan pressed the button on the panel. In an instant, an immensely powerful surge ice elemental energy erupted within his body, spreading outward in a visible wave. Ethan quickly closed his eyes and sank to the ground. About half an hour later, two new students walked past. A man and a woman who had shared feelings during high school and had decided to apply to the same academy after their martial arts exams. Now in the freshman competition, they naturally teamed up, occupying ranks 63rd and 66th on the leaderboard. "There's a ferocious beast ahead," the girl gasped, reaching out to pull her boyfriend back when the terrifying aura emanating from the creature made them realize instantly that this was an existence they absolutely could not afford to offend. "No, we're still in the shallow zone," the boy murmured, his gaze growing serious. "There are only lower level and mid-level first-tier beasts here. How could it exude such terrifying power?" Compared to a mere beast, he felt this aura was more akin to the energy released when someone broke through to a higher cultivation level. What realm did he break through to? Why was the power during the breakthrough so immense? The boy couldn't help but wonder. Thomas at Downey set down his chopsticks when he was pulled back to the mesmerizing glow of the massive screen. The news flashed again. Ethan's ranking had surged, climbing dramatically once more. But it wasn't just the numbers that caught Thomas's eye. It was the scene unfolding within the display case itself, a sight that made his brow furrow in deep concentration. Meanwhile, among the cluster of senior students watching the spectacle, whispers began to ripple through the crowd as they focused on Ethan's displayed frame. That stance. Could he be attempting a breakthrough into a higher realm? Aren't you worried about the risk? Attempting such a leap? The seniors debated amongst themselves, their tone laced with professional curiosity rather than outright shock. After all, they had no true measure of Ethan's cultivation depth. The surge of primordial energy was elusive, detectable only by the most acute senses, not merely projected onto a screen. But Thomas saw differently. He knew intimately that when the freshman competition began, Ethan stood at the apex of the first tier, already among the elite freshmen. Most students at Aethelgard Academy didn't even approach the advanced realm of the first tier until their second semester, if they were lucky. For Ethan to break through again, heading straight for the lower levels of the second tier, even Thomas, a 7th-level grandmaster, felt a jolt of profound shock. This pace is impossible, it was simply too fast. In just 2 months, who would have thought he could leap from the nascent awakener realm all the way to the threshold of the second tier? Yet, the undeniable evidence before his eyes left Thomas with no choice but belief. A wave of profound gratitude washed over him. He felt incredibly fortunate to have taken on such a terrifyingly gifted disciple. It was nearing 5:30 p.m. in the subterranean world. The agitated ice elemental energy within Ethan finally stabilized, settling into a deep calm. He exhaled the breath that carried the scent of ozone and spent power, then slowly opened his eyes. His gaze immediately snapped to his panel. His name was Ethan. His evolution points were 50. His special ability was Ice Crown, rated S-class. His realm level was lower second tier. His mental energy measured 370 haze. His ki and blood totaled 880 calories. He possessed skills including marksmanship at advanced level, melee combat at intermediate level, Ice Ring at D-class and intermediate level, Ice Flash at B-class and beginner level, Ice Blade at a class and beginner level, Frozen Shield at a class and beginner level, Ice Blast at S-class and intermediate level, and Detective Skill at S-class and beginner level. His body 10 technique was Profound Nether Ice Soul Body, rated S-class and second level. His mental state had increased by 50 as, and his T of blood increased by 130 calories. This was not the full measure of power gained from leaping from the upper first tier to the lower second. Ethan endured a long period of rigorous cultivation before merely using evolution points to bridge the gap. "I've reached the lower level of the second tier," he murmured, a faint, satisfied smile touching his lips. Now, even that third-tier beast in this underground world probably wouldn't stand a chance. That subtle curve of the mouth mirrored Thomas's own expression. Ethan had crossed a monumental threshold. Combined with Alex only possessing S-rank fire abilities, they were formidable. Even if they met head-on, there shouldn't be any insurmountable trouble. On the third day of the freshman competition, Daniel and Clara, along with others who moved swiftly, had already ventured deep into the area. Being on the first to reach these deeper zones meant a rich bounty of both Tier 1 high-level and Tier 2 low-level ferocious beasts. Of course, such creatures were masters of concealment. But Clara possessed the detective technique, rendering most natural camouflage useless. This advantage allowed her to surge past her competitors, seizing the top spot on the leaderboard. Her name was Clara. Her student ID was 2052009001. She had accumulated 6,560 points, giving her a rank of first out of 24 participants. Her score was staggering a monumental 6,560 points. This high total was fueled by the fact that eliminating a Tier 1 high-level beast granted a massive 200 points. The lower second tier required an additional 500 points just to maintain parity. To Clara, these powerful beasts were nothing more than routine obstacles. They crumbled like brittle tofu dregs at the slightest touch. Instead of wasting time hunting nearby creatures, she pressed deeper into the labyrinthine depths. She knew that the points gained from encountering beasts further inside would increase exponentially. "I wonder how long I can hold this first place," she whispered to herself, her focus absolute and predatory. As the morning sunlight barred the ground in an even wash of gold, the fourth day dawned. This was perfect. Defeating other freshmen yielded 25% of their accumulated points, Ethan's specialty. After walking for an hour, Ethan encountered no new students. Instead, they moved deeper into the restricted zones. "We've finally reached the deep areas," he mused, glancing at the red-shaded map on his watch. "The points we gather from the beasts here will be substantial." The distinct sound of footsteps crunching on fallen leaves echoed nearby. Who was it? The sudden noise instantly snapped Ethan to attention. He activated his detective skill, sweeping his senses across the immediate surroundings. What he detected wasn't a ferocious beast, but a person. This individual is quite tall, almost 2 meters. Ethan stroked his chin, considering the figure. Then an easy deduction formed in his mind: it was Jake. Regardless of whether it was Jake or not, as long as this man wasn't part of the patrolling senior staff, Ethan decided to act. He stood at the lower second tier. Currently, no one could challenge him. Ethan did not attempt to mask the rhythmic sound of his running steps, a sound that immediately caught the eye of a tall, dark-skinned young man with unruly curly hair. This was Jake, who had come to Aethelgard Academy to study. It was crucial for survival. Defeating a new student granted 25% of their points. His rank was 69 out of 24 participants. This ranking allowed him to simultaneously meet 2 conditions: possessing an S-level superpower while remaining ranked below the top 50. "How could I be only 69th? Jake inwardly rejoiced, a flicker of smugness crossing his face. "Luckily, some prey came willingly to me." He quickened his pace. Soon, he and Ethan found themselves moving toward each other in a direct, head-on collision course. "Jake! It really is you!" Ethan's lips curled into a slight, knowing smirk. "It's you." Jake's pupils widened slightly, surprise momentarily overriding his confidence. "Forget it," Ethan dismissed with an air of supreme boredom. "I can't be bothered to talk to you. You don't deserve the effort," Ethan exhaled, and a sharp, lethal intent flashed in his eyes. The next second, several razor-sharp ice blades materialized and streaked through the air. Ethan's sudden, overwhelming attack caught Jake completely off guard. Half of the icy assault struck him directly. A thick, crystalline mist erupted around the impact points, accompanied by deep, visible gashes across his body. He gasped, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the ground. The watch glowed brilliantly, and an energy shield snapped into existence, enveloping Jake entirely. His status was eliminated. Was that all? Had expected at least a minor obstacle. Ethan's lips curled into a faint, dismissive smirk. He recalled the hostile glare Jake had thrown his way earlier. It was nothing remarkable. Furthermore, Jake possessed an SS-class ice ability, mirroring Ethan's own unique gift. He had genuinely believed he was facing a worthy opponent. Instead, the resistance proved as fragile and brittle as parchment, shattering at the slightest pressure of his will. "Let's see what points Jake has accumulated," Ethan murmured, tapping his record watch. The data instantly flared into existence before his eyes. Jake's current score stood at 3,750 points, placing him 19th out of 1,424 competitors. He remembered vividly that when he had first encountered Jake, the total was 3,150 points, and Jake was ranked 23rd. Now, the total climbed to 3,750, a gain of 600 points. Given the established rules, this meant Jake's actual score was only 2,400 points. You awakened a rare S-class ice ability, didn't you? Surely you could at least try to prove yourself. Ethan sighed, the disappointment in his tone palpable. If Jake had pushed himself even marginally harder, he would have amassed more points after their confrontation, and wouldn't be relegated to such a low rank. It was genuinely disheartening. Meanwhile, across the arena, Jake, who had activated his elemental shield, was shouting loudly in broken Chinese, pounding on the shimmering barrier with frustrated fists. Ethan feigned deafness, turning sharply and striding away toward a more distant corner of the facility. "Excuse me, you are right." Soon, senior students patrolling nearby arrived, their concern etched into their faces as they extended helping hands. "Fine," Jake mumbled, rising slowly, his dejection heavy in his posture. He allowed them to guide him away. Perhaps coming to this Aethelgard Academy, fueled by a desperate need for competitive validation, had been the greatest mistake of all. He found himself wondering if he could somehow transfer back to the Shanghai University of Superpowers, where things were different. One crystalline ice blade after another erupted from Ethan's hands, punctuated by the rhythmic chime of system kill announcements. After securing the beast's crystal within his spatial ring, Asaya stabbed Ethan. His ice blades were launched with blinding speed, but that velocity inherently meant each strike carried relatively low individual force. Yet, the purple fanged serpent, which was at virtually the same level as himself, to crumble under just 2 blows spoke volumes of his current power. "I never imagined the purple fanged serpent couldn't withstand even 2 of my strikes. This is the result," he mused. "Of combining the effects of consuming the extreme ice pill to activate my ice element during this period, coupled with the recent breakthrough in my body tempering technique and cultivation realm." He did both. He continued his relentless march deeper into the facility's depths. His score increased to 4,500 points, placing him 16th out of 1,424 competitors. Later, it rose again to 5,500 points, ranking him 14th. By the time he reached 7,000 points, Ethan was ranked 12th. In the span of half a day, Ethan's ranking surged from 23rd to 12th. Even without relying on companion beasts, his progress was undeniable, a clear trajectory toward the top 10. His striking figure, the clean efficiency of his monster-slaying movements, and his rapidly climbing rank achieved without any beastly aid, these 3 elements drew the attention of every senior student who watched. Many second-year students, upon comparison, realized their abilities were barely comparable to those of freshmen. Yet, they dismissed these thoughts quickly. Even among geniuses, there were always other geniuses at Aethelgard Academy. To measure oneself against every single one would surely induce profound despair. "This freshman has immense potential. Our team must target him after the preliminary round. Don't even think about it. He awakened the ice element. Our Extreme Ice team already boasts 3 members of that type. It's a perfect match." "So what? Haven't you heard that teams need balance? Our Water Blue team happens to be missing an ice-type player. He is tailor-made for us." Simultaneously, numerous teams had taken notice of Ethan, each formulating a plan to recruit him. Unaware of the scrutiny, Ethan remained deep within the underground sector, relentlessly hunting ferocious beasts. He defeated the purple fang serpent again, and gained 130 evolution points. Then he took down the Tier 2 mid-rank ferocious beast King Tanuki, gaining 200 evolution points. A day passed in a blur of combat, marking the end of the 5th day of the freshman competition. Ethan's points surged again, hitting an astonishing 12,500, breaking into the top 10, and securing 8th place. Now that he occupied the coveted 8th spot, Ethan's figure appeared prominently in the large display frame. "He's charging up again, it's electrifying to watch." Witnessing Ethan casually dispatching the 2nd-tier mid-level beast, the Great Tanuki, with mere flickers of his wrist, the spectators realized he was not alone in making strides. The crowd watching felt an overwhelming surge of collective passion. Some people waved their fists excitedly, as if they themselves were striking down beasts in the underground depths. When one person rose, another had to fall, and the one who fell happened to be Alex, a student favored by James, the dean of the Fire Element Academy. Now, not only did the senior students and teams notice Ethan, but so did James. He stared intently at the figure displayed in the 8th place slot. A layer of icy shield enveloped his body. This was undeniably an ice-type skill. This person must be a newcomer who had awakened an S-level ability. More than he lacked any companion beast. This meant Ethan had forfeited one significant avenue for point accumulation. Was it sheer luck? James was not foolish enough to believe that. This only proved that the individual strength of this new arrival, this master of ice, was definitively superior to several students ranked above him. Just as a wave of disappointment washed over James, a sudden memory struck him. What if Alex had encountered Ethan at that precise moment? Who would have prevailed? While undeniably powerful on his own merits, Alex wasn't merely fire-aligned, he possessed a companion beast, a fiery griffin cub. If Alex were to meet and defeat Ethan? After glancing at Thomas, who stood beside him with an amused smile, James harbored such expectations. Soon his eyes blazed with renewed excitement. Because it was patently obvious from the respective display cases of Ethan and Alex that their paths were about to collide. The clock hand crept toward 6 o'clock, and the deepening twilight blurred across the landscape. Ethan halted his advance not in exhaustion, but purpose. He unslung his backpack and methodically erected a tent right where they stood. Across the clearing, Alex mirrored the movement, setting up his own shelter for the night. Watching at the periphery, James felt a knot of acute anxiety tighten in his chest. His mind raced, calculating how Alex could leverage the elemental advantage of fire against ice, especially with a companion beast by his side. He desperately hoped Ethan would face a challenge worthy of his considerable talent, a chance for both a lesson and valuable points. Yet, the realization settled heavily that this confrontation might not come until tomorrow. With a weary sigh, James turned toward the promise of dinner in the cafeteria. But before he could take a step, he saw it. Ethan moved. He abandoned his tent and started walking toward Alex's camp, which was only a short distance away. A flicker of anticipation, a faint, hopeful smile crossed James's face once more. Thomas noticed the shift in focus as well. A silent, knowing smirk played on his lips. He found the unfolding drama amusing. He thought that Ethan, at a second-tier lower level, having consumed so many extreme ice pills, would dismantle Alex like it was nothing. Returning the underground world, Ethan settled into his tent and casually extended a thread of mental energy, activating the detective technique. His original plan had been simple. Wait till true darkness fell and hunt some nearby ferocious beasts. But the technique revealed more than just prey. It illuminated another freshman presence nearby. Ethan's resolve hardened, and he left his tent without hesitation. Meanwhile, across the clearing, Alex and the grising griffin cub, both mid-first rank, operated with dangerously low mental attributes. When Ethan used the divine detective technique, he sensed a profound unawareness in them. They were utterly oblivious to the danger gathering at their doorstep. Ian, hurry up and eat. Ethan hurried over only to be greeted by the warm tableau of Alex feeding roasted meat to the fairy griffin cub. But this peaceful scene was about to shatter. Ice blade. Before Alex could register his presence, Ethan launched a decisive long-range assault. A flurry of razor-sharp ice blades cut through the air in rapid succession. The fairy griffin cub, happily tearing at its meal, suddenly reacted to the glinting threat before its eyes. Without a moment's thought, it reared up and shoved Alex away. Protecting its master was instinct, protecting its owner was duty. What are you doing? Alex stammered in confusion. Only when he saw his companion beast bleeding from several deep gashes did the reality of the situation crash over him. There, charging rapidly from a distance, was Ethan, brandishing a long spear. Alex's gaze narrowed as he noticed the faint but unmistakable layer of frost clinging to the shaft, recognizing it as ice type. So you're the freshman who awakened an S-rank ice ability. You dare show such arrogance with your powers? Alex's voice was laced with fury. He raised his broadsword high. Flames erupted from the steel, and he charged to meet Ethan. The spear met the broadsword in a deafening metallic clash. Every senior student, every team member offstage, even Thomas and James, observing as mentors, froze, their eyes locked on the spectacle. Sigh. Why did he have to provoke a fire-type freshman? Ice is so weak against fire. Is this where he plans to stop? The older students watched Ethan's actions with bewildered frustration. It was normal to challenge new talent and earn points, but pitting ice against fire felt like inviting disaster, a move that defied all logic. As the two weapons clashed, flames met frost in a spectacular collision. For a moment, fire and ice seemed locked in an elemental stalemate, with the cold seeming to gain a subtle upper hand. Yet, judging by Ethan's controlled expression, he was clearly not exerting his full strength. Alex felt a prickle of confusion. Was this man's marksmanship superior to his own mastery of steel? Extreme flame slash. Seeing the deadlock, Alex changed tactics. He sheathed his greatsword, circled around, and unleashed the devastating skill. The blade, roaring with raging flames, slashed straight toward Ethan. Despite the pain, the fiery griffin cub spat several small fireballs to aid its master as it flew toward Ethan's position. Frozen shield. Ethan murmured the command. A shield appeared before him, thin as a cicada's wing yet radiating an impenetrable thickness. The broadsword struck the barrier, sending up billowing smoke and steam. With one blow, the shield did not shatter, it merely developed several spiderweb-like cracks. Know this. What realm are you at? Alex was genuinely stunned, unable to process the resilience of the defense. Just then, a fireball streaked in. Ethan sidestepped, and after two more fireballs struck the ice shield in quick succession, it finally gave way with a groan. Second tier, lower level. Ethan did not attempt to conceal his true power from those who were about to be eliminated. He let them understand the process of elimination. He immediately pressed the attack, finding perfect footing and channeling a sudden burst of strength augmented by his advanced marksmanship. With a powerful shove, he knocked Alex's broadsword aside. The sword spun through 360 degrees in the air before plunging into the dirt with a wet thud, severing a newly sprouted blade of grass at its root. Second tier, lower level. Alex's pupils dilated instantly. He muttered under his breath, no wonder. His own special ability was only marginally superior to others, and his cultivation level lagged by 2 full ranks. Well, Alex sighed, then proactively activated his recording watch. Since neither of them were a match for him, it was safer to activate the elemental shield actively rather than risk being beaten half to death and triggering it passively. Your knife skills are adequate, Ethan conceded, but you lack true strength. With that final assessment, he turned and walked back toward his tent. Ethan's effortless movements and Alex's voluntary surrender sent a shockwave through the assembled senior students, prompting a chorus of stunned exclamations. This is undeniably a promising talent. Quickly, put him on the first list for recruitment. We must bring him into our team. What about Clara, who came in first place, and Daniel, who placed second? I'll move him to the back of the list. I have a feeling Ethan will definitely be the winner of this freshman competition. Liu Hong, vice-captain of the Silver Wolf team, spoke quietly with his teammates beside him. At the mentor station before the large screen, Thomas leaned forward. Dian Xiao, my disciple is correct. Alex's strength is indeed somewhat lacking. He needs much more practice when he returns. After years of waiting, Thomas finally had his moment to shine, and naturally, he would not let this hard-won opportunity slip away. He smiled, patting James lightly on the shoulder. The 6th day of the freshman competition dawned, revealing a brutal truth about survival. Many new students had not been felled by the ferocious beasts themselves, nor had they succumbed to the energy shield triggers on their recording watches. Their downfall was orchestrated by one another. Worse still, instead of pressing deeper into the unknown depths for greater rewards, some were content to retreat, harvesting major points from weaker newcomers. After 5 days of relentless accumulation, many freshmen already held a substantial portion of their potential score, a haul far richer than any single beast could offer. The point leaderboard was a volatile canvas, shifting with dizzying speed. A student who had commanded the top 20 spots just moments ago could plummet below 200 in the blink of an eye. The competition, it seemed, had officially entered its most savage phase. Ethan, however, remained oblivious to the drama unfolding around him. He continued his methodical sweep, dispatching any ferocious beast that crossed his path. If you see one, kill it. He moved with a practiced grace, mastering every skill until the beasts were left with no chance of escape. The system notifications chimed rhythmically. You have defeated the Tier 2 lower rank ferocious beast, the Purple Fang Serpent, and gained 130 evolution points. You have defeated the Tier 2 mid-level ferocious beast, the Unicorn Rhinoceros, gaining 400 evolution points. You have defeated the Tier 2 high-rank beast, the Two-Headed Rascal, gaining 750 evolution points. As he ventured deeper into the zone, the quality of the quarry escalated. All beasts were now second tier, the first tier specimens had vanished. Then, a superior creature appeared, a two-headed rabid dog. It was a menacing sight, a beast scarred across its face, its body a grotesque tapestry of black and crimson. Its size dwarfed an adult domestic canine, easily standing twice to 3 times its length. It was called the Two-Headed Rabies, and true to its name, it possessed 2 heads. Such a creature would surely send any delicate young woman into hysterics. Yet, Ethan felt no fear. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his handsome features. To him, this second-tier superior beast was not merely an obstacle. It was a walking repository of evolution points, and raw scores, especially the latter. Killing a high-level second-tier specimen could yield a staggering 6,000 points. Such a prize demanded more than mere caution. Watching from the sidelines, the senior students reacted instantly. Ethan has encountered a two-headed rabid dog. No, wait, it has 2 heads. This must be the Two-Headed Rabies, a two-headed rabid dog, second-tier superior.
Ethan, you can't get hurt! Foosh!
Wuthan, take this thing down. Among the crowd of senior students, a sharp-eyed observer immediately recognized the beast. When he realized it was indeed a second-tier high-level threat. Several older students who were secretly rooting for Ethan frowned, their concern palpable. Others maintained their belief in him. Two-headed rabies. I'm rooting for you. James, whose spirit had been dampened by yesterday's events, scowled for hours. He knew Ethan was facing a true threat and silently prayed that the vicious dog would finally end his rival's streak. But knowing Ethan's inherent strength, he could only watch and hope. Back in the underground world, the moment Ethan locked eyes with the two-headed rabies, he knew discretion was impossible. Ice explosion. As the creature charged, Ethan gripped his spear handle tightly. He channeled his inner energy, unleashing a skill that felt both familiar and devastatingly potent. A low grunt escaped him as frost erupted from the tip of the black dragon spear, enveloping the charging beast in an instant sheath of crystalline cold. The sound was deafening. The two-headed rabies, which had been radiating raw energy moments before, exploded into a spray of bloody, mangled flesh. Holy crap. It was done in seconds. What skill. It's so powerful. Every senior student who witnessed the spectacle stood frozen, their eyes wide with sheer astonishment. They had not just expected Ethan to survive, they had never anticipated such instantaneous annihilation. It was terrifyingly efficient. Some of the female students covered their mouths, letting out gasps of awe when they finally lowered their hands. Isn't that Thomas's self-created S-rank skill, Ice Explosion? Many senior students who specialized in ice ability squinted, recognizing the signature move. Thomas, as the dean of the Ice Academy, was well known for his powerful, custom skills. Ryan, vice-captain of the Silver Wolf team, stared intently. His eyes shone with a mixture of professional admiration and desperate ambition. Even Captain couldn't have achieved this level back then. We must get Ethan to join our team, no matter the cost. Like Sarah, Ryan was a senior at Athelgard Academy. And while Sarah had been the champion that year, comparing him to Ethan now felt like comparing an amateur to a master. The sheer gap in power was undeniable. How could this not excite Ryan? Ethan remained utterly unaware of the seismic sensation his single action had caused outside. He simply activated his recording watch after the dust settled. Name a student ID 205207001 points 26 750 rank 3 out of 1424. He had climbed to 3rd place. He barely glanced at the names above and below him. Tomorrow he would surely be first. The final rankings, he was certain, would only solidify when all new students' positions appeared on the map on the 7th day. A wave of confident anticipation washed over him. Tomorrow is the 7th day. Finally I can spar with more S-class ability users. Night fell, casting long shadows across his tent. Sitting by the campfire, Ethan opened his personal panel to review the day's gains. Name: Ethan. Evolution points 4400. Special ability: Ice Crown Haser, realm level lower second tier spirit, 371 Hz Q Iron Blood. 883 calories. Skills: marksmanship advanced, hand-to-hand combat intermediate as upper row. Body Tenbren technique profound nether ice soul body, SS is second level. His evolution points now stood at a solid 4400. I wonder how many more I need to break through to the mid-second tier. It should be soon enough. Ethan rested his chin on his hand, musing quietly. As was custom, he set aside an hour or two for cultivation during his rest period. The subtle flow of energy began. His spirit increased by 1 Hz, and his blood energy gained 3 calories. The day of the freshman competition's grand finale had finally dawned, thick with electric anticipation. The atmosphere was charged. More senior students than any previous day were gathered before the colossal screen, their collective gaze fixed upon the impending climax. After all, only these few remaining contenders would claim the title of champion. Go, Junior! Show them what you've got. Clara, defeat him. Take it down, Junior Clara. The seasoned veterans who had followed this tournament for days could not help but murmur their predictions. The championship seemed poised between two figures, Ethan and Clara. Logically, the grass-type affinity of Clara held a slight counter-advantage against Ethan's ice element. Furthermore, she stood at the upper echelon of the first tier, while he was positioned in the lower reaches of the second, a minor but noticeable gap in power. Even with her formidable companion beast, the deepwater demon dragon cub, ice attacks remained potent against water-based powers. All indicators pointed toward Ethan having the edge. Yet this world was a vast stage built on the illusion of certainty. A small contingent of older male fans, drawn by Clara's striking beauty, rooted for her to bring down their rival. James, however, saw things differently. He did not view it as a contest of romance or rivalry. He simply hoped Clara could help him vent the frustration and humiliation Ethan had inflicted upon him. Ethan rose before dawn that day, his energy humming with barely contained excitement. He remembered clearly, on this final day, the locations of all the new students would be displayed on a map. With that knowledge, he swiftly accessed the interface. Indeed, dozens of small red dots scattered across the map like constellations. Each dot was accompanied by a label detailing the information of the student it represented. One entry listed Wang Zi with 27,000 points and a rank of 2 out of 1424. Another entry detailed Clara with 29,400 points and a rank of 1 out of 1424. The current map showed roughly 60 red dots. Over 40 were clustered in the shallow layer, while about 10 rested near the edge of the deep zone. As for those who had ventured into the inner regions with him, 4 survivors remained within his immediate vicinity: Clara, Daniel himself, and Fang Shi. The top 2 teams aren't far behind me in points, he mused. And the one closest to me is Daniel. Ethan had never heard of this Daniel before. But far from feeling apprehension, a thrill shot through him. After all, unknown challenges were always the most exhilarating kind, weren't they? With that thought, Ethan began moving deliberately toward Daniel's location. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the arena, Daniel was equally keyed up for this final day. He opened the map displayed on his wrist-mounted device. When he saw that Ethan was the closest person to him, his anticipation intensified into a sharp focus. He heard whispers that the Ice Academy had welcomed 2 S-level freshmen this year, while he paid little mind to the international students' academic standing. What truly mattered was the level of the new students from China. Currently, Ethan held 3rd place, and the point gap between them was razor thin. This proved his mind that Ethan's strength could not be underestimated. It was merely a small difference, luck could easily bridge it. Perhaps I was just lucky. Daniel's gaze sharpened, and he froze, shocked to see the red dot representing Ethan slowly but surely closing the distance between them. Interesting, Daniel murmured, a faint smile touching his lips. It seemed he was not the only one who felt compelled to challenge Ethan. A rustling sound broke the silence from the surrounding depths. Who? Ethan's eyes narrowed, his eyebrows lifting slightly. He immediately channeled a small reserve of mental energy. Activating the detective technique, what they discovered were not ferocious beasts or newly spawned creatures, but senior students patrolling and maintaining order within the underground world. Ethan continued moving while keeping the map in view. Now, Ethan and Daniel could be described as heading in parallel opposition. Both sides vibrated with palpable excitement for the impending clash. About 10 minutes later, when he finally drew near to Daniel, Ethan used his skill again and discovered that Daniel's companion beast was an eagle. Moreover, judging by the movement of the red dot, the opponent was faster than him. And it must be a wind element one. Ethan deduced instantly. His guess proved correct. Finally they met in a tense tableau. Ethan, I look forward to playing against you. Daniel smiled faintly. His striking light green pupils seemed to deepen with challenge. His companion beast, the Gale Eagle, let out a sharp cry, echoing its own anticipation for the battle ahead. Same, Ethan replied. The fight was about to erupt. With the initiative, Ethan unleashed several ice blades from a distance, then shouldered the black dragon's spear and charged toward his opponent. These parlor tricks won't hurt me. Wind-based superpowers were inherently defined by agility. Daniel and the Gale Eagle easily deflected every icy projectile Ethan threw. I'll have a go at you, Daniel challenged. His appearance was deceptively gentle, reminiscent of Jason, peaceful and unassuming. Yet the weapon he wielded was a longsword, like Guan Yu. Did wind-type ability users favor longswords to maximize their destructive output? Ethan narrowed his eyes. This blade was undeniably heavy, yet Daniel handled it with effortless grace, showing no sign of fatigue whatsoever. This suggested that even if wind abilities made lifting easier, Daniel must have undergone rigorous, targeted training, otherwise, such mastery would be impossible. Spears and swords clashed in a magnificent, deafening spectacle, though the longsword moved with breathtaking agility in Daniel's hands. Ethan's advanced marksmanship allowed him to maintain a steady advantage. Just as Daniel seemed poised to falter, his companion beast made its move. A fierce eagle plunged into the fray, its sharp talons flashing. Ethan had no choice but to pivot his spear, take 2 steps back, and use it to fend off the Gale Eagle. Daniel yelled sharply. Ethan's precision was putting immense pressure on him. Whirlwind slash. Once he recovered his footing, Daniel used sheer shoulder strength to sweep his longsword across the ground. The next moment, a massive wind blade erupted, hurtling straight toward Ethan with terrifying speed. Even the fiercest winds and eagles were not lagging behind. The Gale Eagle beat its wings frantically, generating 2 smaller whirlwinds that swept towards Ethan as well. Ethan the first activated Frozen Shield, then used Ice Flash to teleport out of harm's way. The wind blades and small whirlwinds slammed into the Frozen Shield simultaneously. Countless cracks spider-webbed across its surface, but it did not shatter completely. Seeing Ethan vanish, Daniel raised his longsword, intending to block him once more. But then they discovered